Hello, I'm Heath White here with Alan Menke.
Hello?
And today we're going to do a series of short videos discussing the different processes involved in manufacturing metals. And here in front of me we have a display of the different Robbins metals, the federal metals. And this is a salesman's sample depicting the different metals that they made, along with the original dies from Robbins' factory. And here are the pages from the tooling record books showing when Robbins got made the dies, what the dies were. And on here, one of the things of interest, it shows that the hubs for the dies were sent to them from the quartermaster. And that's important because most of the things that they manufactured, they made their own hubs and tooling in-house, where orders that they produced things for the quartermaster, in most situations, the hub was sent to them and they would use the hub to make a die. And so Alan will kind of walk through the steps involved in producing a metal, and then afterwards we'll do separate videos where we go into much more detail, talking about the processes in more detail.
Okay. This is a U.S. government going bananas because they're in war and they don't have enough metals. So they've ordered every metal that they made except for the Medal of Honor. This is the December 24th, 1941 issue. Now, they had different processes for each metal. One is the Purple Heart, and what I'm going to be covering is going to be the Legion of Merit. Here is one of the dies for the Legion of Merit. This is also made by Robbins in the Robbins box for Legion of Merit. And then we're also going to cover the decorations and badges and insignias for the Quartermaster Corps. This book is for the Quartermaster Inspector. It tells you how to make dies, the processes for each, all the steps and pictures of each step, and that will be in paperwork at the end of this presentation. Now, when you have the dies, what they say first thing is blankings. They want to inspect them. The next thing is degreasing the blankings. Then they did the stampings. Then they did the annealing. And then they did the stampings again. They did the trimmings. They did annealing again. Now, on the annealing, it's like a furnace coming up to about 1400 degrees. They bring the rolled piece into the furnace, and they bring it up to a certain temperature, and then they gradually, depending on what material they made of, go down until it makes it cold. What that does is it makes the metal softer so they can stamp it again. It makes it less brittle because they can break it, and then they have to file it and clean it, and then they do this rolling process as many times as they need until their no-go gauge goes across the deal, getting ready for stamping. Okay? Annealing, they do stamping again, they do trimming, then they do degreasing, then they do pickling. You want to know what pickling is? Yes. Okay. Pickling usually is 10 to 20% sulfuric acid in water, and that takes off the brine and the other stuff. Then they would inspect it. They take a file on the rollings and cover it over. Okay. Then they would do filing again. Then they would do the soldering. Now there's two different ways of soldering. Sometimes they have a tang on it, and they bend the tang over and then solder it, or sometimes they have a piece and they solder them both in there. So there's different times, different manufacturers made it different ways. Then they would do the enameling, and there was two different types of enameling they used, but the Victumus metaling, like they did on the Legion of Merit, was the type that they used, and we're going to go later on and cover all that. Then they did the stoning, they did the glazing, they did the polishing again on a wheel, they did the greasing again, and then they did the plating, the gold plating, right here on that, they did that. And then they touched it up with highlights. Now, on the earlier, and then they did the lacquering. But on the earlier first type Legion of Merits, they also did piercing, which they pierced between the arrows, right in here. The first ones were all done pierced. But the reason they quit doing it, it took too long, they wanted metals, and that was mainly done at Bailey Banks and Biddle. And there's 22 steps in the Legion of Merit. Purple Heart, there's 23 steps. Each medal was there, and each medal had a different composition. This one right here for Legion of Merit was 95% copper and 5% zinc. And the Purple Heart was 12.5% zinc and 87.5% copper. And they would, drop they would weigh the bars to the amount of percentage, and then they'd throw it into the, to be melted before they poured it. What's really important, if you want to go into this more, is to go into it tells you everything for the quartermaster core. You've got how they make the dies. The machining, the other things they made on it. It just tells you everything in here that you want to know. Here they're making some of the it shows every machine that they made. These pictures are from the mint, and every process that they did, including the ribboning and the boxes and everything. So if you want to get more into it, that's what I would go do.
So in summary, there's many steps in the manufacturing process involved in making a metal.
Yes, and the steps from one contractor to another contractor can be different. And from one contract to another contract can be different. So you have to watch what, like this is from the June 1945 contract. So this was all the specs that they used. Now they had changed it before, like in June of 43, they took the numbering off of some of the metals. Okay? And then in 41, they had another one where they quit the piercing and stuff. Anything else?
So I think that concludes an overall introduction to the metal making processes. We will have separate videos where we go into more detail on these processes and what the terms mean and some of the tools and get into more detail on it.
Yes.
Thank you.